The Stanley Cup Finals. A chance for some of the league's best and brightest to etch their names into the hockey history books. Whether it's the first time hoisting the cup or yet another chance at success, this moment and this trophy means everything to the players who step on the ice, and this matchup will be no different. This year's final is set to feature a thrilling rematch between the Edmonton Oilers and Florida Panthers, rekindling a rivalry that captivated fans in 2024. And the narrative behind this series could not be better. Will it be a story of redemption or dominance? A season that will define a player on track to become a legend of the sport or derail him from his destiny? A year that will create a dynasty or a team that will be a one-hit wonder? It doesn't matter who you are rooting for or where you're from, this is the best time of year to be a hockey fan. And today, let's not only preview, but predict who I think will be winning in this year's Stanley Cup Final, and who I think will ultimately fall short of their goal. I had goosebumps writing this script for you guys, but the Stanley Cup Finals is my favorite time of year, and like I talked about at the top of the video, we have an exciting rematch between the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. Now at this point, I think that this series could go either way, but in order to understand what we're looking at here, I think we need to go in depth for both teams. Now I talked about their roads to get to this position. I'll have a few videos at the end for you guys to check out, so if you want to see my deep dives into how they got to the finals and what their keys to success were during those previous series, you can check those out afterwards. But I think it's only fitting that we start with the defending champions today with our breakdown, talking about the Florida Panthers. The Panthers are aiming to defend their title, and outside of Toronto, it didn't seem like they had any trouble getting back to this spot. After a strong regular season performance, they triumphed over Tampa Bay in 5, Toronto in 7, and completed a 5-game victory in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Carolina Hurricanes. I think what separates Florida from other top teams in this league is their balanced scoring throughout their lineup. They don't rely heavily on one guy, and that enables them to have off games. And with that next man up mentality, this is how Florida is able to beat some of those teams who lack that same depth. Looking at Florida, you have their skilled two-way players in Barkov and Reinhart, the Rats like Marchand, Bennett, and Tkachuk, and plenty of secondary scoring from Verhaeghe, Luosterainen, and Rodriguez. Not to mention Lundell, and of course one of the best fourth lines of the playoffs. And it doesn't even stop there. Florida's defense and goaltending have been playing incredibly well together, complementing each other and preventing a lot of teams from finding their offensive footing. Bob is playing with an insane amount of confidence, and with that back end of Forsling, Ekblad, and Jones, it's nearly impossible to maneuver your way to prime chances, let alone flimsy chances that might just let the puck get into the net. I think Florida has built out their team to be nearly unstoppable to beat. But if there was one team who I think has the roster to beat them, or at least go up against them, it would be Edmonton. Now Edmonton, if you look at their road to the finals, I believe on paper it was a little bit more difficult than Florida's, which isn't always a good thing when you have a long playoff run like these two teams have had for the past 2 years. LA had their best roster in years, and even after going down 2-0 early in that series, the Oil rallied and beat them in 6. Vegas, though intimidating, was made light work by Edmonton. They shut down their offense and capitalized on bad mistakes and mismanagement of the puck by the Knights to win convincingly in 5. Their Western Conference Finals matchup against the Stars was a toss-up to start, and even though it seemed like it was going to be the end of the road, the Oilers managed to claw their way through that series to get to this position. Now the narrative around this team, it's always been an easy and lazy one. The Oilers need Connormcdavid and Leon Draisaitl to be excellent if they want any chance of winning any series. But I firmly believe that this whole narrative has been debunked. Yes, McDavid and Draisaitl are very important to the structure of this team. Their contributions, they can't be understated. But that doesn't mean that the Oilers have won solely because of these players. They're more than that. Depth has always been a topic of conversation for Edmonton, and this year, I feel like they've done an excellent job at not only putting themselves in a position to be one of the deepest teams in the playoffs, but potentially even deeper than Florida. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins has really had a great playoff run. Zach Hyman, though hurt now, came up huge through the playoffs so far. And even having to bring up guys like Skinner, I think that they're going to step up and bring a physical edge to the game. Something that guys like Connor Brown have been doing for a while, and even Zach Hyman before he got hurt. I think the Oilers have the players, and I think that they're motivated by last year, looking to really get redemption on what was a pretty sad ending to their season. Another big narrative for the Oilers is that defensively, they're just not as good as other teams, and I think they've really done a good job at shutting people down from that statement as well. While guys like Nurse do make mistakes from time to time, they have some good players within this defensive group. Bouchard has been a unit both offensively and defensively, and they have guys like Ekholm, who I think are still one of the better defensive players in the game today. So, not really trying to chirp their defense at all this year. I think that they've really shut a lot of people up, and they deserve more flowers and credit than they've gotten all postseason long. As for Stuart Skinner, I think he's really found his game lately, sort of similar to how he did last year, where he got hot in the Western Conference Finals and then managed to get them all the way to 7 in the finals. While he can be inconsistent at times, I think that he's at his best right now, and when he is at that point, he can be a high-quality end starter, which is a gamble for a team like the Oilers, but when it works, who's going to complain, right? When it doesn't, the world's going to be crashing down. But I think in the end, we're going to see Stuart Skinner lift this team to the finals and actually get them to a new point this year. For this series, I don't think it's a question of whose stars are going to deliver more. I think we're going to be talking more about the depth of these teams in this series, as well as who makes fewer mistakes, because I think whoever can capitalize on the mismanagement of the puck by their opponent is going to end up on top in this series. It's just plain and simple like that. Last year's finals were so tight and both teams reached incredible heights, and this year I expect nothing less. Close-knitted matchups where fundamentals are going to be the difference between a win and a loss. Now, when I started talking about this breakdown, I mentioned that it's not going to only be about the stars, but it is going to have an impact on this series. And a focal point matchup that I want you to pay attention to is Barkov versus McDavid. Historically, Barkov has done a pretty good job of shutting down top players. He's a 2-time Selke winner and one of the best two-way forwards in the game. But going up against a talent like McDavid, it's not going to be easy. So whoever ends up coming out on top in that matchup will likely give their team an edge as well. Goaltending will also be something to pay close attention to. And I personally think that it's not even close in this one. The Panthers have the edge. Bobrovsky's experience and consistent performances contrast with Stuart Skinner. And like I said, he has shown some resilience, which is respectable, but his save percentage at different points in this year's playoffs should raise some question marks about his ability to handle the pressure of the finals. Special teams is also going to play a role in this series. Edmonton's power play is clicking at a 28.9% rate, while the Panthers are the best killing team in the postseason with a kill rate of 87.9%. But Jimmy, who do you have winning? And if you've watched any of my previous videos, then you know who I'm taking in this series. I've counted against them each of the first 3 rounds. I felt like their depth was concerning, their goaltending was a problem, and that their defense wouldn't be able to hold up. And all of those things have been proven wrong. I'm tired of betting against Connormcdavid and Leon Draisaitl, and this is the year that I'm pushing all of my chips in on the Edmonton Oilers. I think Connormcdavid is ready to finally win his first cup, reach his destiny of becoming one of the legends of this game, and I think the Florida Panthers, this is where their road and their dynasty will come to an end. Now, I'm not saying they won't be back to this position. They're still going to be a great team moving forward, but this year, I just think the Edmonton Oilers will have the slight edge. But this is my Stanley Cup Finals preview. I know that there's a lot going into this series and that people have some very different opinions, so let's hear it all in the comments below. Who are you backing, the Edmonton Oilers or the Florida Panthers? Are we going to see the cup go back to Sunrise, or will Canada's drought finally end? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up as well and subscribe to the channel. I have a few other videos that I mentioned at the top about the Edmonton Oilers and Florida Panthers and how they got to this position right here on the screen, so be sure to check those out after this. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next episode.